There's a girl who is unexpectedly given some superpowers and now has the weight of a huge responsibility on her shoulders of saving the world. But she never asked for this life, so she tried to run away. But her inner good compels her to tread the path of righteousness and kick some serious ass. I wish I could say that this cliched premise of a reluctant superhero was the only weak link in Netflix's newest offering in a surprisingly long line of comic or graphic novel adaptations. Well, there you have it. Hello, namaskar, welcome, swagatam. This is my review of Netflix original series Warrior Nun, the first season. Warrior Nun Areala, the original comic book on which this Netflix series is based, is kinda old. The original run was in the 90s and it dealt with female superheroes as we would expect. Large bosoms, muscled bodies with costumes that obligatorily leaves the ass hanging out and thighs exposed. Well, what is the word that describes this appearance? Sexy. But I couldn't find the original comic book series to read, so let's not delve much into this source material. As I said in my review of Arya, the Hotstar series featuring Sushmita Sen, it is not a bad thing for a movie or a series to be based on any source other than an original screenplay. But if the last few years of the lineup of Netflix content is any indication, comic book adaptations don't always stick their landing. Let's start from the beginning. This Netflix adaptation of Warrior Nun is about a secret sect of Catholic nuns. Thankfully, the costumes are more practical and decidedly less bent on sexualizing the nuns. This secret faction of the church consists of one with some divine superpowers and several colleagues who are normal humans trained in the martial arts and combat. There is a whole group of other people also in this order. Overseeing, guiding and training being their main purpose, they also provide expositions for the plot.
Whoever wears a halo is a new champion. A warrior nun.
They give history lessons and invariably exhibit badassery in small doses. And as expected in any story linked to the holy Christian beliefs, this is a battle against the devil from hell. The protagonist Ava, played by the adorable Alba Baptista, is brought back from the dead and given this power because the power chose her over the other trained and ready nuns.
Okay, this isn't a dream. This is hardcore, real life.
So there is obviously some friction between Ava and the other nun who thought herself to be worthier of receiving these powers. In this new life of Ava, in the Order of the Cruciform Sword, the name itself tells you that this is a story that takes itself too seriously.
We belong to the Order of the Cruciform Sword. Devout women who have dedicated their lives to fight in an ancient civil war.
Anyway, in the OCS, there is a mildly amusing interplay of Ava with her co-warrior nuns, her mentor, and one textbook bad guy in a position of power, the Cardinal. Mostly, Ava's new compatriots are divided. One hates her, a few love her, and one is vocal about not caring but ends up becoming her greatest ally. Right around this time, I was expecting another superhero staple, the training montage, which shows the superhero practicing and finally getting a hold of her powers and in this journey discovering herself. But no such luck, because Ava, the reluctant superhero, runs away from this superhero life of responsible nunship and lessons about the devil and the origins of this creed of warrior nuns from a well illustrated old book. Honestly, I was almost as bored as Ava herself was from this run of the mill history of a legendary knight in the first crusade who fought bravely and then was saved by an angel and given a gift of superpowers.
I'm sorry, can we maybe jump to the part where any of this has anything to do with me?
Ava finds herself against a blazingly handsome guy, JC, played by Emilio Sacraia.
Sometimes life just changes right out from under you,
Yeah, there's something.
And we are treated to a horrible and almost creepy teenage romance which is purely hormonal and has nothing to do with love. Honestly, Ava ends up sleeping with literally the first guy of her age she bumps into after getting her powers. This supposed love story is more intolerable than I can make it sound. JC's rebel character is something which we are supposed to care about, but somehow I couldn't bring myself to like someone who steals and lives in other people's houses. And not in a cute way. Yeah, I said it. There are cute thieves whom we can agree to like on the screen. Have you watched White Collar? Remember Neil Caffrey? And let alone cuteness, there is a certain appeal and charm in the bad guys who own their selves, whom we can root for even though they are criminals. From the Italian Job to Inception, from Walter White to the Professor, all I'm saying is that doing illegal stuff doesn't make you unlikable on screen. It is how the character is written and portrayed that makes the difference. But I digress. The lover JC doesn't even make it till the end of the season, so it is no use talking about him anymore. So while there is a battle for power going on between the mentor figure and power-hungry cardinal, there is another subplot brewing which promises a grand convergence of science and the faith.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're entering a new era of enlightenment. Heaven does exist, because I discovered a gateway.
In fact, the introduction to this machine, which is supposed to be a gateway to heaven, is the interesting premise and honestly the only hook that kept me going through this series. But it turned out to be too grand and ambitious a concept to be dealt with this story. The science part doesn't converge with the supernatural but actually becomes a plot device which made little sense. The good and evil go topsy-turvy, where the apparent villain has a genuine heart and a son. The bad guy turns out to be a simple bad guy, just greedy and selfish, not exactly evil. And the ultimate twist that I didn't see coming in climax. Which would be a good thing if the monologue of the ultimate villain didn't feel like the architect scene of The Matrix Reloaded.
Hello, Neo.
Who are you?
I am the architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you.
I know they were planning to make a movie on this story but ended up making a 10-episode season, which means there are so many elements in this series which are, simply for the lack of a better term, fillers. And after all that long-winded build-up, they ended the finale abruptly. Don't get me wrong, I do like an intriguing cliffhanger as much as the next guy, but this was not a cliffhanger. This was ending the final episode just as the main villain and the main hero were about to engage in a fight. So yes, they expect you to hold your horses, cool down and wait almost a year to know what happened when the two parties collided. So what did I like about this whole series? Hey, credit where there is due. The season does have great music. I mean, I love the church choir music and it is really good and well used in this season. The locations, the churches and the Spanish landscapes are beautiful. I think if they spent half as much time on writing the screenplay as they must have spent on location scouting, the series would have been gold. There are some good action scenes.
Me into something I'm not.
But those are too few and far apart. CGI as a whole is decent but not very good, especially the demon figure which is completely CG and it looks awful. Bulky and stiff and boring more than menacing. The season is filled with weird issues which you tend to notice more and more since that story runs so slow. A big one, for instance, is why is a girl dressed as a nun carrying a sword on her back in broad daylight and in public places? I mean, this order is supposed to be a secret. Wouldn't that raise some eyebrows and unwanted attention? The warrior nuns are infiltrating into a highly secured facility which should make you remember Mission Impossible 3, but instead is just comical. But while we know they have only 25 minutes, we can't help but wonder why aren't the characters showing some haste. At one instance, Ava escapes an attack but then stays still talking with the Mother Superior and exploring her past. And you are forced to say, get a move on, ladies. That is not all. In the final run, we see Ava just standing, talking and trying to talk down and console Lilith when she could and should have gone ahead and let her friends deal with Lilith. Anyway, I really had a tough time trying to stay awake during the 10 episode first season. And the more I think about the season finale, the less sense the events of the pilot episode make. I won't mention all the questions I have in my mind about the various aspects of this story because in a few days I'll forget all about this series. I'll give the first season of Netflix series Warrior Nun a hearty 4.5 thumbs ups out of 10. What do you think? What are your thoughts on female superhero bodies and costumes? They are attractive and eye-catchy, I tell you, once you embrace that its motive is to entertain the target demographic rather than actively being demeaning or vulgar. And it is not bad to like them. If you like comic books, this is a part of how comic books are drawn. One of my favorite comic books is Empowered. It is not what you call a mainstream superhero comic book, but do check it out if you like comic books. You won't be disappointed. Like always, I'm looking forward to your thoughts and feedback in the comment section. If you liked my review, please leave a thumbs up on this video and share it with all your friends. Stay tuned with The Versatile Doctor by subscribing to my channel, and when you subscribe, please remember to click that bell icon so that you are immediately notified of all my uploads. You have been with Dr. Abhinav Atul, and it is my pride and privilege to be able to connect with you through this video. Namaskar.